back extension is an incredibly diverse tool that has a ton of ways to approach it, which is why this is actually going to be 2 videos. First, just a general overall technique, and then your scaling options to make sure that you have adequate ways to approach this movement. So as far as technique goes, I generally want this to be as short as possible. And the reason is if I get way up here, and there is a scaling function of this, what I find is that my hip is totally blocked. If my hip can't move, I'm missing some components of this. Now, there is a time and a place to go up super high, but in general, you're trying to get into whatever the lowest setting you can tolerate is. And that might be 1 click up to accommodate maybe some knee discomfort, some low back discomfort. Once I've found a setting that I can get through, the goal is to get locked in. And so depending on your variation of your machine, you might have some sort of heel mechanism. You might have some sort of pad that you place your calf underneath, but in general, I'm laying out and getting nice and long. From here, I want to make sure that my legs stay straight the whole time. There is a tendency to, as I come up, to kind of bend the knees, and this actually takes some pressure off the hamstrings because I'm vertical, I'm deloaded. The idea is I stay completely locked out in the legs in order to get maximum benefit to my hamstrings. As far as range of motion goes, this is going to be somewhat particular to your height, but in general, you want to get as deep as you can. I can actually kind of tuck my head into this version a little bit so I can get a pretty intense range of motion and then come back out of that. Or if I don't have that kind of clearance, basically just reaching with a flat back as far as you can. Whether or not you should have your back flat or curved, for the most part, allowing that natural range of motion. So some curvature of the back. And the reason is life demands that we have both the ability to get through here and reach stuff, but then also the ability to get through here and anchor from the hips. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a combination of both. Once I get up top, I'm trying to, it's very common to kind of hedge in this space. I want to get up tall. And it's not so much that I'm trying to arch up to the ceiling, but I'm envisioning a straight line from my head all the way down to my heel. This is going to place a ton of pressure just across the entire posterior chain. Most people are going to feel this in their low back first, sometimes in the hamstrings. What about low back pain and tension? Well, if this fires up your low back, all that implies is that that's the weakest link in the chain. So theoretically, just placing my foot here and placing pressure could light up my foot if I had very fragile feet. For most people, that's not the case. It's going to be the low back. Low back is a weak link in the chain. It gets stronger. It eventually evens out. You get an even stimulus across everything. As far as low back training, why is this not that big of a deal? Well, because the way down is gravity assisted. There's basically nothing to like interfere with my low back. Here I'm totally deloaded, so unless I have an injured or compromised back, this is probably actually going to feel kind of good. It's only on the way back up that my low back is under tension. If I can complete the rep and my low back has the juice to basically get back up, I'm fine. If I find that as I go up, I just can't, well, that means that I'm out of gas. I pull the ripcord, I get my hands up on some sort of surface, and I rest for my next set. In general, because you're only producing force with your low back, and it's not like a deadlift where I've got maybe 300 pounds and I'm going down and it's like, oh man, my low back isn't up for the task. Or as I come back up, my hips and legs are fine, but my low back is dying. That's where we get into trouble with our low back. The other video, the scaling options, is going to tell you how you get through and manage this from a very fragile state all the way up to a super strong state.